One of the first things that I noticed when I moved to Europe back in 2024 was that the quality of food in Europe was substantially better than the quality of food in the United States of America, at least at a similar price point. And clearly, my experience is the rule rather than the exception, because in this video, we are going to be reacting to other Americans who realize for themselves just how high quality food can actually be when you leave the USA. So without further ado, let's get into this first video.
I love this comment, and it's super common that people that struggle with, like, for example, gluten intolerance or other sort of digestive issues, they come to Europe and all of a sudden those problems are gone. And they're like, oh wow, is it magic? No, it's not magic, it's just the food over here. Let me show you something. There's this Instagram account, it's called The Food Babe. She's incredible, you should follow her. Let me show you. This is the difference in ingredients in Cheetos.
Wait. Now, to be fair, flaming hot Cheetos are not something you should be eating for health purposes, regardless of what country you're in. And of course, this is in Australia, so it's maybe not the perfect example, but I feel like this is fairly common, is that the ingredients list on American food items tends to be a lot longer. And there's always some sort of artificial color, red 40 lake, yellow 6 lake, yellow 6, yellow 5. How many different yellows do you need? It's crazy because in the US, people will see this and they think it's completely normal. But just imagine, I don't have any scientific studies to back this up, by the way, other than the lower life expectancy in the US, but just imagine what type of toll eating red 40 lake 5 times a week will take on your health as the years go on. Insane.
The US and in Australia. They're selling the same snack, but look at the number of ingredients in the Australian version compared to the American version. And you know that that's because there are just so many ingredients that we put in our food in the US that are banned in the rest of the world. Whenever I talk about this, people get so mad. And I'm like, why are you mad at me? You should be mad at the fact that your country is allowing ingredients to go into the food that should not be eaten better.
Exactly. Why would you get mad at her or me or anyone else who's simply exposing these truths that already exist? It's not like we're the ones putting red 40 lake in the food. We're just pointing out that it's there when it doesn't have to be there. So I don't really see what the outrage would be in that regard, other than Americans just being insecure because they're realizing that, oh, maybe the US isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I've been living this sheltered, insulated life in the hopes that everything I've been told about the US is actually true. And now I'm realizing that it's not. And I have to reassess everything I thought I knew about the world and by extension myself.
Not healthy for consumers. I've talked about this a lot, but people here really don't need to work out in order to maintain a healthy body size. Myself included, I don't really have to focus that much on what I'm eating unless I want to. And for example, I just started running again, probably.
So to her point, I noticed that gym culture in the Netherlands was not nearly as big as it is in the US, and yet your average Dutch person was in significantly better shape than your average American person, and the obesity rates back this up as well. And the thing I find interesting is that the Dutch diet specifically, and I think she's in France, so the French diet as well, it's not like they're predicated on healthy foods, to be fair. I mean, sure, Dutch people eat stamppot, which is basically just mashed potatoes, kale, and some sort of meat. That's pretty healthy. But they also eat stroopwafels, which are basically just these waffles with syrup in the middle. Or let's say, for example, bitterballen, or bamischijven, or other fried foods. And then, of course, we know the pastry game in France is world class. And yet, you don't really see a whole lot of obese people in these countries. Now, part of that is because, as you can see throughout this video, people can walk places. But when you go on a diet, you realize very quickly that walking is not enough to offset a bad diet. Working out in the gym is not enough to offset a bad diet. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what you eat. Calories in, calories out. And American food seems to be a lot more calorically dense. Hence why Americans tend to be overweight.
in like September, I was like, all right, Amanda, what are you doing? So I started running again, and I've lost like 5 kilograms, which is like 10 pounds just from running 3 times a week. And I'm not running long. I'm running like 3 kilometers, and I stopped like twice. That's the only change I've made to my life, and I lost 10 pounds. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to exercise and feel the benefits of it. I remember in the US, it felt like I was counting every calorie, and I was going to spin class every morning, and I was stuck at the same weight. And the only way I could lose weight was by literally starving myself, which I hated. Now I come here, I can have dinner with my friends, I can go eat noodles 3 times a week, and I'm okay. It's because the quality of food is different. The ingredients going in your body are more real.
Not only that, but something that I would also point out in regards to what she's saying is that accessibility matters as well. So there's this misconception that food quality in the US is just across the board a lot worse. That's not true. There is high quality food to be found in the US. After all, it's a very big country with a lot of agriculture going on. The problem is that the food that is on par with European quality food in terms of ingredients tends to be significantly more expensive and inaccessible to your average person who is also trying to be financially responsible because they don't have a whole lot of social safety benefits. They don't have that social safety net like Europeans do. So they don't have the disposable income to be spending on fruit or other fresh foods, which you can eat a lot more of without gaining a bunch of weight. So I've brought this up in multiple videos, but I want to say the US is one of, if not the only country where there is a direct correlation between obesity rates and poverty rates. You don't really see that anywhere else. Pretty much anywhere else, people who are living in poverty are underweight because they're underfed. In the US, it's the opposite. The calorically dense junk food with all the extra ingredients, which will take you off this earth by the time you're 65, that stuff is cheaper and more accessible. And I think that's why so many Americans, despite counting their calories, they're just fighting a losing battle. And this is one of the biggest issues the US needs to fix. On to the next video.
Guys, I'm currently in Madeira, Portugal right now, and just have a look at these bananas. While I was in New York, I bought bananas and I bought fruits. And when I was eating the banana, it was tasting like stone. It wasn't even tasting like real fruit. But look at these fruits.
I feel like the fruits, that was one of the first things I noticed in terms of the difference in quality of food. It was the fruit and the bread. Those were the two things that immediately stood out to me. And then, of course, as a vegan, the accessibility to affordable vegan alternatives for meat. Those were things that I immediately spotted in the Netherlands that we either didn't have in the US or, again, we had, but just at inaccessible price points.
You call an actual fruit. I don't know what they put inside, but I think most of the food in America is processed.
I don't know why he ate the banana like that, but I definitely feel like the fruit and the bread, again, are much lower quality in the US. I can't really speak to the difference in vegetables because I'm not going to lie, I don't really eat nearly as many vegetables as I probably should. And it's kind of ironic because I am vegan, but that's besides the point. I feel like those two areas right there, bread and fruit, not only are they better in Europe than they are in the US, but I found that to also be true in Thailand and Vietnam. And again, not only are they higher quality, but they're more accessible from a price perspective. Granted, of course, the income levels are different, but in Europe, at the very least, they are accessible to the average person. I do not miss American fruit. Even though American fruit tends to be much, much larger, it doesn't taste as good. Who needs a strawberry that's this big if it doesn't taste as good as your Dutch strawberries, which are this big? Just makes no sense. On to the next video.
Can we just talk about how not once when we were in London and Paris did either of us feel like shit after eating, feel bloated, or just feel flat out disgusting? I'm going to talk about some of the things that we noticed with the food quality and just eating in general in London and Paris, and probably all of Europe, honestly. I mean, I haven't been to Europe probably since I was in high school, so the last time I went, I didn't really pay attention to how my body felt because I probably just didn't care. But this time around, I was very mindful because I had seen videos about how people go to Europe and they realize that they don't feel like shit when they eat. here are some of the things that we noticed personally. Number one, the food portions are a lot smaller.
I've heard this one very, very frequently in my reaction videos, or just anybody talking about culture shocks, whether it's Europeans in the US or Americans in Europe. I'm actually in the minority that didn't really notice this to be the case. I didn't really notice this to be the case personally, but I think the reason why, my theory for this, is because, again, I'm vegan, so my selection of restaurants was very limited in both places, more so in the US. And what I found is that vegan restaurants in the US typically will be very stingy with their portion sizes. So I guess in a sense, I was already accustomed to the European portion sizes before going there. But I do think that for your average restaurant, for a person who does eat meat or dairy or whatever else, you are going to have significantly larger portion sizes in the US than in Europe.
Not to the point where you're still hungry after you eat, but they're literally the perfect amount of food to where when it's done, you feel good. In America, you get so much food, and a lot of us are trained, our brains are trained to want to finish that food. So when the portions are bigger and you're eating more because you feel like you have to finish your plate, you feel like shit, okay? That just goes hand in hand. Whereas, like I just said, the portions are smaller, you feel good, whatever. We even talked to this guy who we were sitting next to at dinner one night, and he was from London, and he was like, I came to America probably 10 years ago, and I went to this restaurant, and there was a salad bar, so I went there, I got my food, I was full, then the server comes over and asks what I want to eat. And he said, what do you mean? I just ate. She goes, no, that's just the salad bar. You need to order your entree. And he said, I'm not even hungry. He literally was like, I'm not even hungry. I just had a whole ass salad bar. I'm not understanding. Like, so he was just going on about how big the portions were in our country.
One thing I want to know, because of course people talk about USA versus Europe in this regard, but within Europe, do the portion sizes vary? Are the portion sizes in London, for example, larger than the portion sizes in Belgium? Or are the portion sizes in Belgium larger than the portion sizes in Poland? Let me know in the comments, if you're well-traveled throughout Europe, what your take on that is.
And I was like, I totally agree with you, because here I feel completely fine and normal after any meal. Another thing, obviously, is the ingredients in their food. And I especially noticed this, I think. I could be wrong. I tried to look into it. I couldn't really find all the ingredients at the McDonald's in Paris, but we went to McDonald's in Paris and got a lot of food, okay? Like,
it always strikes me as wild when people get on a plane, fly 12 hours to go to Europe, or 18 hours to go to Asia, or 24 hours to go to Australia, or whatever else, and then proceed to eat McDonald's. To each their own. I'm not judging, but I don't know. It's just wild to me personally. I don't even eat McDonald's in the US. So rest assured that I'm not eating McDonald's here in Vietnam. I'm not eating McDonald's in the Netherlands. I'm not going to eat McDonald's pretty much anywhere. But especially if you're going to Paris, of all places, to eat McDonald's there, unless you're specifically trying to compare the McDonald's in Paris to the McDonald's in the US, I don't know. I just, personally, it's kind of wild to me.
because we wanted to try a lot of different stuff. So we got a burger, we got a fried chicken sandwich, we got a chicken tender wrap, we got another cheeseburger, we got whatever. Anyway, cheese fries, all this stuff. And we ate a lot of it, but we didn't feel like trash. We didn't feel like trash after. And that's when my mind clicked. Both of us. We looked at each other and we were like, why don't we feel like shit right now? Because normally if we eat that much, especially at McDonald's, we feel like crap.
Now, okay, I think it's also important to kind of make that disclaimer that you shouldn't really be eating like that regardless of how you feel afterwards. You shouldn't be making a habit out of eating a bunch of cheeseburgers and cheese fries, chicken sandwiches, things like that. Don't eat that stuff if you can avoid it, or eat it occasionally. Don't make a habit out of eating that stuff, because even if the ingredients are better in Europe, the stuff is still fundamentally unhealthy for you.
I tried to look up what kind of oil they use at McDonald's in Paris, because I've heard that a lot of like the oils that we use in America are banned in other countries. So I don't know if that's true. If you know, let me know what kind of oils they use at McDonald's in like Europe and stuff, because I swear to God it's different. It even tastes a little different. Not in a bad way, in a good way, I would say. But that's just crazy. We felt fine after eating a shit ton of McDonald's. Another random thing I noticed is that everywhere we went, they either sold Coke or Coke Zero, not Diet Coke. I did not see Diet Coke anywhere that I noticed.
I never really understood the difference between Coke, Coke Zero, and Diet Coke. Granted, I don't drink soda. That's another thing that I don't care where in the world I am, I don't think it's a good idea to drink soda for most people. That's why you see me drinking water in all my videos. It's because, especially if you're in Europe, with that tap water that you have, don't take that for granted. If you're in the Netherlands, you're in, I don't know, Norway, Switzerland right now, literally pause the video and go get you a cup of tap water and just cheers. And let me live vicariously through you, because that's something that I really, really miss. But yeah, all these different types of sodas and the overall selection of sodas in supermarkets in the US, it's just crazy. Things like root beer, cream soda. My girlfriend has literally never even heard of most of that stuff, let alone tried it.
Got a menu anywhere and it would say Coke, Coke Zero. And I also noticed a lot of people were ordering Coke Zeros and not regular Cokes. Another thing about the Cokes is that if you go somewhere, order a Coke, they're giving it to you in a glass bottle. And you don't get free refills, obviously. Versus in America, you sit down at whatever restaurant, they're giving you a fountain drink and you can get as many refills as you want. And I think that's a huge problem.
It is, honestly, because liquid calories are the same as solid calories. It's all the same to your body. So those free refills, honestly, might be even more devastating for Americans, especially when you talk about diabetes and things like that. Different discussion for a different day. But in terms of the obesity rates, that might be equally as, if not more devastating than the portion sizes in the US.
Do it? Yes. Do I think it's good? No, because then you're consuming, especially if you're drinking regular Coke, you're consuming so many calories with those refills versus if they just gave you a glass bottle and you had to pay for every single one you got, most people would only be getting one. Okay? In America, in one meal, people have like 10 sodas for free. That's what really, I was like, wow, they really think it over here. Not saying Coke Zero is good for you, but it's just interesting how many people drink it over there over regular Coke. That's all. I think those are the main things that I noticed. I'm sure there's more that'll come to me. If there is, I'll make a part 2. But if you've been to Europe or you live in Europe and you've been to America, I am so curious to know your thoughts. Because
I'm gonna piggyback off of that. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about how European portion sizes and the overall food quality compares to the American food quality and portion sizes. Because again, for me, portion sizes were not that different, but I think my experience is a bit unique because I'm vegan. But when it came to the quality, it was noticeable. It was very, very noticeable. I noticed that food also didn't spoil as quickly in the US as it did in Europe. And that was kind of, I'm not gonna lie, frustrating at first when I was in Europe, until I realized that, oh, this means that the food is actually good and doesn't have all these extra preservatives in it. So the fact that the bread has mold after a week, that's actually a good thing. You just need to adapt by putting it in the freezer. In the US, you get that loaf of bread, the sliced bread that is, and that bread will last you 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks maybe.